Alright, so today is Friday. Gonna get the 62 ready. Gonna take it this weekend. Have a couple projects we want to get done out there. So I think the first thing, we have a stump we want to dig out, so we want to get that done. And then we have a couple of trees that we want to get cut down to go ahead and get it opened up a little bit more. Kind of where the septic's gonna go. So we have one more sycamore that's kind of in the way, and then a red oak that isn't in the way right now, but is in an area that it's blocking out some of the sun. So we want to get maximum light in there to make sure that gets dried up as much as possible. Definitely right now it keeps raining, so whenever it finally stops, we want to give it a good chance to dry up by having, some sun get to the ground there. So anyway, so I have the 62. So typically try to go through and service it before taking it over. So a few things I need to get done. So right now I have the forks on because I've been moving baskets and stuff around, so I need to get the grapple on. We have the 2-foot bucket on the back, and whenever you're digging out roots and stuff, the 1-foot bucket's much nicer. You can get to a more singular point, and you don't end up with as big a hole trying to dig that out. So I want to switch back to the 1-foot bucket, and then it's been a little bit now since I've greased everything, so I'll run around and grease the entire machine. And kind of just some basic stuff filled up with fuel. So kind of go through and just do a quick video of getting it ready to go, and then utilizing it tomorrow. So first thing before I get it started here, I'll go ahead and check the oil. It's on a little bit of a slope, but with the way the pan and everything is on this tractor, it doesn't matter quite as much. But over here is where the oil dipstick is. Okay, so dipstick's in a nice location here, so you don't have to take any of the hood up or anything. It's right here on the side, so it's easy to check. So we can pull and check it there. And it's just above full, which makes sense with where it's at with the slope. So it's going to be a little bit over, but pretty easy dipstick to read. Just has a couple of spots in it there, so just put that back in, make sure don't get any dirt back in. So try to do that before we start up the machine. Just make sure that it's still pretty good. I don't know, it's probably getting pretty close to another oil change for it, but it's still, I mean, all diesel. If you're not familiar with diesel engines, all the oil, or most oil, ends up turning pretty black like that as soon as you run it. So for whatever reason, the Yanmars don't seem to do that quite as bad, but most diesel engines, whether it's on a tractor or a truck or something like that, typically turns black almost as soon as you change it out. So that's not concerning. That's what it's supposed to look like. Before I start this up and make noise, kind of run around and show you all the grease points on it for the loader, and then for the backhoe, and then a couple of points on the front. So for the loader, everything is obviously in duplicate, so all this is the same on the other side, so I won't go through it. But you have the top pin, bottom pin, the 2 pins here, and everything on this machine's nice right on the outside, so you can get it in. Then you have these 2 on the outside, and that 3rd one all on the outside here. This one is on this side in here, so you can get to it there. So that kind of gets all of that. There's a couple of grease zerks, or 1 grease zerk for the handle there. Don't necessarily have to do it every time. I try to get it about every other, just because it's just greasing that fitting that moves the quick attach up and down. So it didn't get a lot of use, not like the cylinders on the grease on the cylinders. So then the other 2 that I'll show you is on the tires. There's 1 here, so on each side, and then on the front it has a tilt front, so there's 1 grease zerk under there, and hit that too. So greasing the backhoe is the fun piece of all this. So you have, I'll start with outriggers, again duplicates, so you have the 2 down there for those 2 pins, the 2 up here for these 2 pins. That's kind of thing what you're looking for. So any spot that has movement is going to have a grease zerk. So then you have the one here, we have one up here, one down there, so that gets the top and the bottom of the swing cylinder. Obviously same on the other side. And I think the other grease zerks are actually on the other side for this, but you have one here and then one up here for these 2 rotating pieces. And I believe for these, it's best if you, so load and unload, so basically what I mean is have the hoe down and pick up just a little bit, so I'll put pressure up, or I guess if you push down, it'll put pressure down on this, so it'll push grease one direction, and then you pick it up to give it load on the other side, and it'll let grease go the other way. So try to get grease on both the up and the bottom side of those. And then I believe all the grease zerks are on this side. So bottom one there, there. And again, just like the loader, they're all on the outside. So those. And then coming around here, you have these 2. You have this one here because of the thumb. This one's a little bit different, and there's a grease zerk in there. So that's a little bit different depending on whether you have the thumb or not. The thumb has a grease zerk here, and then hop around to this side to get this one. For whatever reason, it's on the other side, and then you have this one here. So that pushes grease into this area, and then you have one here that pushes grease into the center. So it's got a hole bored through it that will let grease come out there. And then this one back here is a fixed point, so it doesn't need any grease. So ended up getting a Milwaukee grease gun to do all of this, and then have one of those attachments I'll show you where you can just stick it on and then squeeze the trigger and let it go. Before, like doing the small tractor, you know, the little hand pump one was fine, because you know, after a couple pumps it'd be fine, but doing this entire machine, you end up going through close to a tube doing it. So if I do both machines, I typically, depending on if I've just put a tube in, I can do both machines without changing, but if I've used part of one, I'll have to change the tube out in between. So anyway, I'll try to capture some of that whenever I start to do it, and get it ready. Before taking the forks off, I want to do one thing here. So got a new tank to store fuel in. So this will be about the first time using it and be the first time filling it up. So getting this ready to put into the truck so we can take it uptown and fill it up with some fuel. So going through and just getting it all buttoned up here so that it can be transported. Like I said, this is the first time transporting it, so just kind of getting that figured out and start with that. So I'll do more in depth on this in the video, but then I'll do kind of a longer term review of it later. Just took the old truck out and got some fuel, and there's a local place here in town that sells off-road fuel, so we got this Fever, I think is how you say the name of the company, tank for off-road fuel. So up to this point we've just been doing fuel cans and filling up the tractor that way. So the big tractor, if you use it for a weekend, will go through about 10 gallons, so about 2 fuel cans, and then the little tractor, if you use it hard for a weekend, will go through about 5. And then the sawmill, which is our other diesel engine at this point, I mean, it uses, you know, a gallon, maybe 2. So it's not a real heavy consumer, but the other 2 can be. Definitely that 62, once you really get it going and we start using it hard, it likes to consume the fuel. But we get a lot of work done with it, so I'm not going to complain. But so, you know, it's just one thing you have to have on hand, and What we got is just a 50-gallon, 58-gallon, something like that tank. So I ran uptown and we had a little bit of fuel in it. We just tested it to make sure everything worked. And whenever we did that, we put like 5 to 10 gallons in. So I put 46 gallons in, and right now off-road fuel is $2.99. So you know, it's 140 bucks at a time, but you know, the off-road fuel is you know, obviously cheaper, not having to pay that road tax. You still have obviously the sales tax on there you got to pay. No getting around that one, but definitely cheaper than you know, normal diesel fuel. Right now it's like $3.70 a gallon in town. Whenever I get back home, I have the big tractor to fill up, so I'm gonna continue working on getting it prepped for going to the 100 acres tomorrow. So I still need to go through, grease it, and do everything. This is one of the things, need to get some fuel for it so it's full whenever we go over there. So have that, and that was on my list. And I still need to go through and grease and get the bucket switched over and get the grapple on. So still have plenty to do, and have a little bit of time this afternoon to still get that done. So I'll catch some video of that whenever I start working on those things to get her prepped the rest of the way. Alright, so I have the tractor over here, just put the fuel, saw that. So the battery for the 62 is right here. So you have this plate that covers it. This plate comes off pretty easy with that thumb screw, but it's on the wrong side compared to the fuel. If I come over here, we'll get this unbuttoned and I'll show you what's under here. Okay, so this is what the unit looks like. So you have dispenser, comes with a filter, a little pump. Obviously we put the fuel in, a little gauge to show you, and then that's just a relief. And then you get your hose. So it all does kind of pack in there. I think whenever you're just using it on a day-to-day basis, you can get this to go in that slot right there. So I'll work on getting that. Have a little bit of a fuel leak here. Just need to tighten up one of the fittings, it looks like. And I'll get this filled up and go get a battery. Okay, just went inside, got a battery. One we've been cycling through. Have the pump, so I'll go ahead and kick that on. And that wasn't super empty, but it was a little empty. It should kick off whenever it's full. It's the only complaint I've seen with this one though is that it doesn't always do that. So I'm just kind of watching here to make sure. Okay, so I think that's got it all filled up here. Kick that off, and then get this twirled back up in there. I'll do that and then show you. So definitely much more convenient than having to get the gas cans out and then typically trying to get a funnel or something to pour it in. Much quicker. Seems like anytime you do anything with diesel, it's a little messy, so you're always going to have a little bit of diesel on stuff. And then, like I said though, this sits here. It kind of loops up around here. And then I'll go ahead and unhook it from the battery for now, since we're not going to be using it again today. So I'll go ahead and just leave this battery out here for now, so if we need to use it, we have something to hook up to. And like I mentioned before, we'll see about getting maybe something that is a little bit more contained that we can use, but I think I'm gonna really like this, and it's gonna be super helpful. Alright, so since I got that fuel tank in there, I think I'm done with the forks, so I'll ditch those and go get the grapple and get it hooked up first, and then I'll work on the bucket next, and then I'll work on grease and everything. Okay, so hooking up these quick connects, pretty self-explanatory, but just want to make sure you're all the way in on those. Push these down, make sure the pins go down, and then I'll pick it up and I'll show you something underneath to make sure that they're seated all the way. And then with this quick connect on the Pioneer fittings here, so I have a piece of paper towel. I typically just wipe these, give them a quick wipe, just so if there's any dirt or anything, you're not, introducing that into the hydraulic system of the tractor. So wipe off both faces. So that is why the quick connects or the flat faces can be nice, because these can kind of hold a little bit, but if the tractor's off, you can actually get a little bit of oil come out of these if you're having a hard time cleaning if there's some debris. But they're pretty easy to clean. And then with the tractor off, this shouldn't be a pressurized system, so you can get 1 and 2, and then you just want to make sure your hose, however your machine works, make sure your hose isn't someplace where it'll get bound up. And I'll show you one other thing once I start the tractor up here. Okay, and before I start making noise, on the 62, and I think Kubotas in general, they have some kind of button to turn on the solenoid to activate the front hydraulics. So on the 62, it's right here. I've seen another tractor where they put it on the stock and you can accidentally push it. If it were my tractor, on that I would find a spot in whatever the dash is to kind of incorporate it, so it's a little bit nicer like this one is. But you can have that turned on. I'll go ahead and start. And always just cycle it real quick to make sure that they're working. Okay, so that's all working. So I tilted this up, and you can do the inspection from the seat, but I'll get closer so you can actually see. So you want to make sure that these pins come down and seat in here. So that is how the quick connect on these work. So you have these little pins that come down through this, and like this one, you can tell they made it for a couple different variants because it can be a little bit different. Now they've gotten pretty good about making these standard, but always just pick up anything I hook up. So whether it's this, the forks, anything, always pick it up, tilt it a little bit, and just visually see that these are through. It's possible that you get just a little bit of it here, and then it is thinner down here at the bottom. So what can happen is it gets partly seated, and then you'll break off these tips because there's not as much there. So just want to physically check that, and that's going to go for all quick connects that have this type of system. I know John Deere has like the pins that you push, that like push in, then you clip. So you don't have like a similar kind of thing where it may not go through like the other skid steer quick connects are, but just something to think about and pay attention to. So have this on, I'll go over and get the 1 foot bucket now. Okay, over here behind the shed where I have the 1 foot bucket. So if you're not familiar with Kubota and how theirs work, so their quick connect system consists of some ears that the main part brackets into. You close it and it goes into these U's here, and then you have one pin that you take in and out. So that's what it looks like over here. So whenever, if you, on the 62 anyway, if you close the bucket up against the thumb, that relieves all pressure on this pin. So it makes it super easy to take out. And then whenever you open it up, you have to get more than like halfway open for this to fall out, so you can kind of get it in place and it'll fall out. The other thing to know is you have to have your elevation this direction correct. Now with a small bucket like this, you can be off just a little bit and have the bracket put in, and then kind of rotate a little bit and it will kind of seat itself. Since it's so small, when we had the log splitter, it was a very long solid thing and you couldn't just rock it a little bit, it had more issues with it. But I'll go ahead and get this pin out and kind of show you getting this attached. Now on this, normally you'd use a normal pin for here. You know, we end up digging a lot of roots and things like that with it, and we found that we've lost pins, and where we've lost, you know, the cotter pins, and then this pin, the big pin, will start to come out because there are circumstances here where it gets loose. So we ended up just taking a piece of wire and we run wire through it a couple times, and that's not just coming out unless you break it. So a little bit bigger pain in the butt, not as quick, but definitely much safer as far as making sure you don't lose your pin while digging through roots and stuff, because that's whenever you lose the just the clip pins. So let me get this off and I'll set you up and I'll show you taking it off and putting that other one on. Okay, I actually got that wire out much quicker than I thought, so that pin just then comes out. So I'll go ahead and real time you setting this down, getting it unhooked, and then getting slotted into that one, and getting attached to that one. And then basically same thing, you close your bucket all the way up against that. That creates the relief to be able to put the pin back in, and I'll get that wire back in it. So as far as that part goes, pretty straightforward. Less than 2 minutes here whenever I set you down to drop that one off and get this one put on. Basically, it's a little bit more challenging to see just because you have the thumb and it has this extra piece on there. So once you kind of know what you're looking for, and you can see I wasn't quite lined up, so I used the thumb to rotate it around a little bit so the ears were kind of more in line with the machine. And then that is the nice thing with the way these are, and it being a small bucket, you can kind of get it started, wiggle the machine just, or wiggle the hoe just a little bit, and they'll kind of fall into place. And once you have that, you can start to close it, and then it, you know, seats in the bracket here. And then I'll just show you that this then goes in super easy. Again, have that closed, so it goes through super easy. I won't have you watch me try to get that wire fed through a couple times, but basically I just put that through a couple times so that it can't go anywhere, and everything's been changed over now. So I'll probably back up just a little bit, get everything kind of laid out flat or straight, so I can start greasing stuff. Okay, so I have that just down flat, have this extended out so I can reach these top ones, and then straight so I can get everything in there. Most of this I'll do via the time lapse just because it doesn't seem to matter what I do. I end up covered in the grease, but I'll show you a couple things before I get started. So here's the Milwaukee greaser. Nothing fancy about it. It does have light, and then has the option on how many pumps you want, and then it's a 2-speed. Speed 1's more than fast enough, and then I typically just have it on constant, because basically I just go until I see some grease coming out around the pins. So I want to push a little bit of the old out and then get some new in, and just do it that way instead of doing, you know, 3 pumps or whatever. So I'm using this red and tacky grease, just what we've been using on everything, seems to work well. And then the only other thing is you'll want a small screwdriver to be able to clean out the fittings. So if I come up to one here, so like these here, so you can see they get packed full of dirt because of, you know, being on the outrigger here. So basically you can take it and then you want to use it to dig out the dirt before you start pumping grease in. So you want a small screwdriver or something to be able to clean these out. Not all of them are that way, like these are okay, but there's others you'll want to be able to clean out first. Okay, and the last thing I'll show you before I get going is, I think it's called like Lock and Lube. I don't know which brand this is, but anyway, basically lets you, instead of just having to hold it on there, you squeeze this, it opens that up so you can stick it on, kind of give it a little bit of a wiggle. Now it's locked on there. You can pull the trigger, and I'm just starting to see a little bit of grease come out there, so I'm going to call that one good and start going through the rest of them. So that makes it really handy to where you're not having to hold it the entire time. If it's at a big angle, you may have to hold it, just kind of keep it straight, but that you can just kind of set this down, let it pump, and start getting grease and everything. So like I said, I'll let time lapse do the rest of it, but I'm going to go through and get everything greased up so it's ready to go. Right, so I got everything greased up. I had one here that's giving me issues. It's not wanting to take grease. It's that bottom outrigger one. So I'll probably pull it up to the house, see if I can't take that out, see if it's packed full of dirt, see if I can't get it cleaned out, so we can get grease in that one there. These two sometimes give you fits too. Don't want to take grease. I'm not as concerned with these. They're kind of more in the dirt all the time, whereas that one, definitely since it's part of that pivot, would like to get that fixed. So I'm going to pull it up to the house and do that. Otherwise everything else is greased and should be ready to go. So So I don't know if that was a quick video or not, but just a video going through getting this thing ready for tomorrow. So have the grapple on it so I can move some trees, small bucket so I can dig out a stump, and I don't know, see what other mess we can make tomorrow. So also got the debut using that new fuel container, so we'll see how it does long term. So kind of give an update later on after we've used it more. Honestly, that's about the second time we've used it. We used it once to fill up the small tractor, and just used it now. So we'll see how it does long term, and whether we like it. So thank you for watching the Schmitter's 100 Acre Woods. Hit that thumbs up button, subscribe. We'll catch you next time. Alright, so here, just getting this taken care of. So took the grease zerk out initially and thought maybe it was just full of dirt. Come to find out that the pin actually, there's grease getting into the pin but not coming out the center. So I end up having to drive that pin out. So it takes a little bit of work here, get that driven out. Kind of trading off back and forth. Finally get that out and then able to basically clean it. And get it to where grease will come out again. So takes a little bit of work, and just going through and getting that cleaned up so that it'll be greased, and just putting a little bit of lube on it here so that when we drive that pin back in, it goes in a little bit easier than it came out. This one obviously hasn't worked for a while because there hadn't been any grease there. So it was good to take the time and get that put back together. And then once we have it clean, we can pack it full of fresh grease. And then while we're doing this, we also take a look at the ones on the outrigger like I mentioned. And just by rotating and kind of getting those freed up, we're able to get a little bit more grease to come out. By kind of tapping those and getting them to move back and forth. So thank you for watching, and we'll catch you next time.